as you get them. There we go. And this is being recorded. So with that, let's dive in.
Cool. Let's talk through the study itself. So last fall, if you've been following us for a while, we did a study on proposal writers. So very similar to this. We put it out in the marketplace, and the first thing that I heard back from the majority of our customers and the people that we talked to is, cool survey. I would like to see more about like why people buy these things. I already know how I write things. I know how other people write things, but I'm really interested in the buyer angle. So that's what we wanted to study this spring and go out and see what's in there. So we flipped it and we surveyed buyers. So the buyers that we talked to, if you add them all up, they reviewed about 65,000 proposals in the calendar year of 2024, which is pretty impressive. And they spanned industries and titles. So we focused on things like market research, construction, insurance, professional services, IT consulting, professional services kind of being a big catch-all was a focus for us as well. And we had responses across different persona types. So we had CEOs who filled this out. We had frontline managers who filled this out. We had plenty of directors and VPs. So really any field and any person who sits down and reads customized proposals and evaluates them and figures out who they would like to award business to. Those are the folks that we wanted to talk to and we got responses from here. So we did ask both quantitative and qualitative questions and got their feedback there. The quantified stuff, we wanted to establish what the trends were in the marketplace. And for the qualitative stuff, it's just going to provide a whole lot more color. We want nice quotes. We want things that give us real life applications to the numbers that we're seeing so that we understand why people gave us the responses that they did.
Great.
Go ahead.
No, and I was just going
Oh,
to say why all of this matters. So we're going to discuss this in the webinar today, but understanding your customer and what they need is increasingly an important part of how people win deals and how they delight their customers. And as AI enters our day-to-day lives and augments the work that we do, elements of our job that AI can't take over, the human parts of our job become increasingly important. And building a true understanding of the human on the other side of the table is one of those human elements of the job. And this study not only reinforces that, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it also helps you do just that. It helps you understand the buyer and what they are looking for in these documents that we put together. So our goal today is that everybody leaves with one or two takeaways that help you better understand your buyer, and in doing so, helps you understand some things that you can do to win more of their business.
great. And the themes that we found in the study results were really clear. So we're going to kind of organize this in chapters. I felt like grouping the survey responses. I didn't want to just show everybody, hey, we asked these questions and here were our responses. We wanted to put these, as Deborah said, into themes that are easy to understand and that you can get some clear takeaways to improve the quality of your proposal and the way you're approaching these problems. So here's the three categories on the things that we found. So the first thing is AI is not cheating, it's competing. We wanted to ask, obviously we're an AI-based company, but we wanted to ask a lot of questions around this because if you go to any proposal writer conference or marketing conference, it's kind of the number one thing that people are talking about is how you're using it. Should I use it? What are the hesitations to do it? And all those kind of things. And what we found was pretty clear. Buyers suspect that you're using it, but they don't really care. And they may even find you a little bit strange if you aren't using it because they're using it themselves. So we'll talk through what those numbers look like and some anecdotes from that. The number two theme we saw was that people now are buying solutions and not proposals. So I want you to think of proposal as the entire document. So sort of the wrapping that the solution is encased in, right? The solution is kind of how I'm going to do it. It's how I'm going to deliver on that promise that I tell you. But the proposal is the full document itself. And while the entire proposal, the entire document matters, ultimately, it's the quality of your solution that's going to get you selected as the winner here. So we'll talk through some stuff on that. And also optionality impacts outcomes. We live in an on-demand world. I have endless choices. Endless choices can be paralyzing, especially for me. I'm bad at making choices if you give me 100 of them. But if you give me two or three really good things that you can provide as a company, and you tell me why one is the clear winner, and maybe some other things that I could do as an add-on, that's a pretty good story to tell me, and that buyers really enjoy. I like to have two or three choices when I do something with a strong recommendation that hey, you should go down this route. So we'll talk through that as well. But those are the three big themes that we found. AI is not cheating, it's competing, buying solutions, not proposals, and optionality impacts outcomes. All right, so let's talk through the first one. AI is not cheating, it's competing. So I'm not surprised by these results, and I don't think that anybody sitting in on the webinar will be super surprised here by where they landed, but the extreme measure that they landed is kind of the surprising part. So let's kind of go through these one by one. You can see the bar graph over on the right side. So 86% said that AI will be standard in the proposals that they read and evaluate in the next 5 years. If anything, I wish I would have asked this question about 1 or 2 years from now, because I think the number would be just about as high. So basically, everybody thinks this is happening. What time horizon that is might vary a little bit, but certainly everybody within the next 5 years. The second bar chart here, I think, is really interesting for anybody on this webinar, and that's that 53% of buyers are already using AI to review proposals. I'm going to underscore that. Review, not write. This is buyers. This is not sellers. So 53 are using it to review. I was really surprised by this, but ultimately, like, should I be? I don't think so, because when you think about AI's strengths, the ability to take a lot of information and cut through it, tell us what the bottom line theme is, that's something that it really succeeds at. And I can't imagine having a lot of proposals sitting on my desk that I have to read line by line. Seems like a pretty smart use of AI. So when we're thinking about how to use it, there's always a stigma that, hey, this sounds like AI. I just wrote this. It has maybe an M dash in it, or there are giveaways that says this is AI. But if you think about how people like to buy things, in general, you like to buy from sellers that are like you. And so if you're using AI and they're reviewing it in AI, there's an interesting connection there to start to think about how that might change over time in terms of preference to who wins. So really surprising to see that that was already over 50%. And I think that's leading to these last two bar charts. I'm going to actually jump to the fourth one here. 66% say that they've seen an increase in proposal quantity in the last few years. Again, AI makes these things a little bit easier to write, so we shouldn't be surprised that that number is up, but it's up pretty substantially. So most people are seeing more than ever that the competition is thicker, but they're also seeing the quality raise, which is that third bar chart, at 67%. So they're getting more, they are better. And overall, that means that the competition, I think, is quite thicker for everybody on this call. Winning's never been tougher. You do have these resources available now to you via AI, but so does everybody else.
Yeah, and one of the things that our customers often express to us is a fear that when they use our platform, their customers will judge them negatively if they knew that AI was involved. So our customers often go through the output of our system and look for indicators that AI wrote this, the M dash, the Oxford comma, words that trigger AI wrote this. And their fear is that their customers will see it and judge them negatively because AI was involved in the process. And so we asked the buyers of these proposals, how do you feel if you knew that AI was involved in the writing of these documents? And our survey shows that the fears of our customers are largely unfounded. We are in a transition, and buyers not only accept that you'll use AI in your proposal writing, but many of them are embracing it. And candidly, this was surprising to us because of the amount of concerns that our customers have about AI indicators in their writing. We were expecting this to be at best balanced, but 80%, more than 80% of buyers either say, The use of AI would not impact the trust in these documents, or they would trust the document more if they knew AI was used. That means that the fears of something sounding like AI wrote it need to go away. Our buyers don't care, or if they do, they want us to use AI in writing these documents. And if we go to the next slide, I think the some of the quotes that we got from our buyers help us explain this a little bit more and bring it a little bit more to life. It's not just that buyers are comfortable with us using AI to write the proposal. They're wanting us to use AI to help us augment our thinking and make our proposals better. They want us to go deeper and do more with the help of AI. Now, I want to be clear that we didn't see any comments or anything in the data showing that our buyers want to remove the human from the process. Nothing could be further from the truth. We didn't see anything like that in our study. But what we did see is that our buyers want our thought leaders, our subject matter experts, and our proposal writers to work alongside all the tools that are available to them in order to make our solutions and our proposals sharper and better in ways that benefit them as buyers. They want the bar to be risen. They want us to raise the bar in a way that benefits them. And they don't care what tools we use as long as it results in their solutions de-risking their business and resulting in better outcomes for their challenges and their opportunities. And that came through loud and clear. Um, the other thing that I think we're going to see in subsequent chapters, though it's not overt in this chapter, is that when you use AI, especially for writing tasks, the implicit outcome of that is that there is more time to reallocate to other parts of the process. And our buyers have some very strong opinions about where they want that time to be reallocated to. They have the bar is definitely higher in other parts of the process, and the pressure is on to improve in other areas when it comes to proposals and solutions in order to win their business. So, Paul, if you want to go to the next slide, kind of the key takeaway here is that there is some relief. Our buyers are A-okay with us using AI in order to create better documents, faster documents, better solutions that get in front of them. But the pressure is absolutely still on. Buyers aren't threatened by the fact that we're using AI to create our solutions and our proposals. In fact, they are expecting it, but they are also expecting higher quality, higher quantity, faster turnaround times. And the competition is higher. So if our quality isn't going up, we are behind. And that was loud and clear in chapter 1.
Great. So let's talk about that additional pressure that Deborah just talked about. We previewed this earlier that buyers, they're not buying the full proposal, they're buying the solution a little bit more. So they want you to reallocate the time that you've saved by using AI tools to really think about the solution, mainly the solution fit to their organization. So if you see that big number in the bottom left-hand corner, 98% of buyers said it's important or mandatory that a proposal reflects an accurate understanding of their company's needs. That means that today, if you are sending out a template and you just change the name of the organization every time you send it out, because your services are pretty standard, people aren't impressed. You're going to turn off 98% of them, and you got 2% left to potentially sell. So that's not going to play in your favor, right? 87% of buyers have rejected a proposal simply because it was too generic. Many of you have noticed that AI can sometimes write pretty generic copy. That happens. Humans write that as well. But these things are pretty aligned. If you understand the need and you are able to feed that to AI to write it a little bit better, you can get around that generic piece. So really thinking about your discovery skills and what is applicable to the company that you're talking to is going to really put you as a standout in the sea of bids that are out there. 81%, in fact, have rejected a vendor they were initially leaning towards because of a weak proposal. I think we've all had those calls before where we do the discovery call and I go into that call and I know I have the best solution and I might phone it in. I do some discovery, but out of that call, I think I've got it in the bag. I think I've got it won, and I deliver something that doesn't quite hit on what they thought. And all of a sudden I lose the deal. And I'm not sure why. I haven't really done the navel gazing part about like how much did I customize this? Well, if I know 98% require an accurate understanding of their company's needs, and I knew I was going to win that deal and I phoned it in, I shouldn't be surprised that I lost. So really focusing on discovery and making sure that when you do have that, that it makes its way into the document. So every piece that you learn, you're able to feed into AI, or you are able to take yourself and write and make sure that that is customized specifically to how we're going to deliver these products and services to the customer is super, super critical. And because again, you're competing with more solutions, you're competing with better ones, that pressure increases quite a bit. So we weren't surprised to see these numbers at a really high rate. I think maybe they were slightly higher than I thought they would be, but overall, not too surprised. And I think if you're writing proposals on a regular basis, these all add up.
I
So
also,
go ahead.
one quick comment on the last slide is that AI doesn't solve this problem. It accelerates it if you haven't solved the problem for yourself. So we're an AI software company. If you don't know how to do discovery, if you don't understand your customer, if you don't understand your pain point and you try to use Hyphenate, your solution, it's going to accelerate the bad, as opposed to if you do all of those things well and you use our software, you will accelerate the good. It is uh, uh, bad accelerates bad. AI is an accelerant of what you have at the front end.
Great. And to support that last slide, we gave buyers a whole bunch of options on the biggest mistake that they see on proposals that get submitted. You're seeing 29% here, and you're like, hey, that seems kind of low. Well, we gave them like 10 choices. So 29% is a pretty massive number when you think about it in that context. Not customized to our needs was far and away the number one winner here. That was above, pricing wasn't clear, or it was too long or too technical. Those things mattered a lot less than what does this actually mean for me? What's in it for me? Does it understand all of my problems? And it wraps around that. It's not enough to just say what we can do. So this means that in general, sellers, proposal writers are taking too much time to talk about themselves instead of about the buyer. While there's a ton of good reasons to talk about yourself as a seller, keep in mind, like all of that information is readily available online, or probably is available, and people are using AI tools to evaluate your proposal. It's not a stretch to believe that they're also doing that to do research on your company. So a lot of that is already there. And knowing that people like shorter proposals that are more to the point, which we'll talk about in a little bit, really focusing on that client need is going to be the most important part. So think about enhancing your solution. This is overwhelmingly the number one thing that people are citing.
Yeah, and just to dive a little bit deeper onto that, it's complementary to what Paul just said. 69% of buyers prefer proposals that talk more about their needs over vendor expertise. We call this customer centricity versus company centricity. Now, especially for the companies that we serve, which are services companies with consultative, highly customized projects that solve your customers' needs, of course, you have to talk about your company, your services, your offerings. Of course, you have to do that. You're describing how you're going to solve your customer's challenge. No one is going to put together a proposal that doesn't talk about your business and your solutions. I'm not saying that. But how you talk about your services and your solution matters. Um, it's things like, do you start the sentence with your company's services and solutions, or with your clients' challenges and their business? When you talk about your approach, your methodology, Is it done in isolation, or do you always tie it back to the what's in it for the customer? Um, there's uh, we see thousands of proposals, and I was about to say there's no right or wrong way, although this data point would say differently. We see a wide range of customer centricity to company centricity. What this survey result is saying is that for 69% of buyers, they strongly prefer customer centricity. So even when there's the same amount of airtime dedicated to talking about what you're going to do for your customer, how you talk about that and how you position it in relation to your customers' needs and pain points matters. And I would strongly recommend that you evaluate when you're talking about your business and your solution, how are you framing that in relation to your customers' needs and pain points? And this is, for me at least, this doesn't come naturally. This requires some deeper thinking to take the what of what I'm going to do for a customer and think about how am I talking about the what in a customer centric way. This is a really good use case for AI. Write down the what am I going to do, the bio of my team member that's going to do it, plug that into AI along with your customer need and say, I want you to take the what of what I'm going to do and write it in a highly customer centric way. AI is really good at doing this, and your customers, 69% of them, will appreciate that you've done it.
Great. And to add some color, as I mentioned, we qualitative and quantitative feedback, and I think sometimes these help a lot when we can put this in the words of people who actually filled out the survey. So, make sure we can visualize everything from start to finish of the product. Leave no room for question. So the solution is fully detailed, and I know exactly how that's going to be delivered. If you took the time to ask us a clarifying question and it doesn't show up in the proposal, you wasted my time. So this manufacturing buyer with a little bit of sass, but like I get it. Like I wouldn't want that to be done either. You're compounding an issue and you're missing the opportunity to really tie it in for what's in it for them. So, and then the third point, don't gild the lily trying to impress me. Directness will serve you well. Understand what I need and just tell me how I'll receive it. There was a lot of information, and if you haven't had a chance to download the full survey, I would recommend doing it. But there was a lot in that survey on directness and sort of brevity. And this buyer is pointing towards that as well. And it all comes back to like, I just want to know the solution piece. The proposal is great. It gives me color, but ultimately I'm buying that solution from you more than anything. Takeaway from this. So the content of the proposal, as we said, no longer the differentiator, the solution fit is. Buyers are rewarding vendors who demonstrate that they understand the client's needs and have tailored the proposal accordingly. So if you are spending time talking about yourself, you're missing things out. You're missing out on things. If you are spending a lot of time talking through individual team members, great. Tell me why those are the right team members for this project and can serve the client's needs. Think about it that way, and I think your proposal quality and your ability to win deals jumps up quite a bit.
All right, we're moving into our final chapter, and transparently, we are increasing the level of difficulty with each chapter here. So, chapter 3, optionality impacts outcomes. Choice builds trust, but too much choice can kill deals. Here, almost 100% of buyers say it's important that vendors can rationalize their solution decision when asked for more information. So, said differently, if your buyers ask you to justify why you picked the approach that you did, they want you to be able to answer that question in a really compelling and concise way. And almost 100% of buyers want to be able to see in the document that you send their way, they want to be able to see that you considered alternatives to the approach that you're presenting. The way I think about this is your buyers want to believe in their soul, that you did not just get off the phone with them, kind of think of the first idea that came to mind, maybe a project you did last week where you'd say, that approach will work. You grab it and you slap it in a document and you send it their way. They don't want that. They want you to have sat down and critically thought through, how am I going to solve this customer's challenge? What are the various ways that I could solve this challenge for them? What are the pros and cons of each approach? What are the risks and rewards of each approach? What are the business outcomes that I would expect if I went forward with each approach that I'm considering? And then they want you to actively choose the approach that you are presenting to them. They want it to be a conscious decision, not a default. They want you to use data to decide which approach you are presenting to them. And they want to see in the document and in the conversation that they're having with you that this approach that you are recommending to them is the chosen one, not just finger to the wind. And I don't know about you all, but for years and years, that is not always the way that we chose the solution that we presented to our customers. We chose the approach because it's gut instinct. This feels right. Or, I did a project like this 6 months ago. I'm going to grab the proposal that I wrote for that project and swap the name out of it and kind of edit my way into this current opportunity without thinking through, is there another approach that would be better than the one that I'm using today? They want us to do better. And at the beginning in chapter 1, I said they have a point of view on how they want us to be reallocating our time. This is it. If we're going to be using AI to save us time on the writing of the proposal, thinking through the solution that the proposal represents, this is where they want us to be reallocating that time.
And you know what I love about that is it's like a consultative sale, which everybody loves a consultative sale, but the buyer isn't necessarily spending their time with you to walk through that. You mentioned sitting down and almost outlining what are my options here, what makes sense for the buyer, how can I pull the discovery in there? It's you're getting as a buyer, you're getting all the benefits of a consultative sale without necessarily dedicating a lot of precious time because you have all these extra bidders. So that's great.
Yep. Now I'm going to make this even more complicated with this next slide, which is buyers reward clarity and simplicity. And 54% said proposals were unclear or overly technical, and that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make in proposals. So almost 100% say they want you to be consultative and think through alternatives and think deeply and actively choose the approach, and they want to see hints of that in the document that you put in front of them. But then more than half of them say one of the biggest mistakes that you could make is have unclear or overly technical documents. And so they want you to do all this deep thinking, but they also want a clear and simple document put in front of them. And I think what our buyers are telling us here is they want us to do the deep thinking, they want us to think through the detail, and they want us to push that to the point where we have done all of our homework and we can boil the ocean and get to a point of simplicity. As somebody who has written thousands of proposals, what I can tell you is there's two warning signs that I have not done enough work on a solution. The first is I can only describe my solution in simple terms, the vision. The second is I can only describe my solution in complicated or highly detailed terms. If I can't do both, chances are I haven't fully fleshed out my solution. Paul and I were talking about this before as we were kind of prepping for this webinar. We think about it as a proposal and SOW. And if you think about it, this isn't always the case, but if you think about the proposal as the document that sells the vision of the solution and the SOW as the document that defines the scope and sets the boundaries of what you and your team are going to do once the project is won, before you put anything in front of the customer, are you prepared to write both of those documents? And if you're not, you probably aren't ready to get in front of the customer. Your customers are expecting you to be able to do both when you put something in front of them. And when it comes to a proposal, they want to see the vision and get enough details to understand the solution that you are presenting. And they want to know that if they have questions or if they want to get more details from you, that you can provide those very quickly. but they don't want to get lost in the details. They don't want to see every inch of your thinking and every alternative that you thought through. They don't want to read a 500-page document to get to the so what, now what that they're trying to understand. They want to see the polished, clean version that they can read through and understand what they're going to get, but know that you're there for questions. And if you can't provide that, it's a really strong indicator that there's probably more thinking to be done.
And to back that up, what Deborah was talking about, where you sort of have to have the high level vision and also the technical approach, we ask people, what's the section that you look at first? Now, if you ask our customer base or prospects that we talk to on a regular basis, they would almost all say pricing, because pricing is probably the most frustrating category for a proposal writer because it's the one you have the least control of, right? But executive summary, overwhelming, being the number one answer here. I think we had 7 or 8 different answers here. So to come in at 36% is a pretty overwhelming amount. And, that is a section that you control completely and that a lot of people are looking at as the first section and maybe the only section that they're going to read. So if you think about your buyer, if that buyer is at the C level and doesn't necessarily get into the weeds of the project, they may start by reviewing that executive summary and say, go, no go. And if it's a go, then I pass it off to somebody to read up the rest of the proposal. But I'm starting just with that executive summary. So if you're not doing that today, I had a customer the other day ask, hey, should we include executive summaries in our proposals? And I said, you shouldn't care what I say. Like, here's the numbers. 36% of the time they're looking at it first. That doesn't mean that it's only 36% of the time they're looking at it. They're probably looking at it 100% of the time, but they're starting there and then they're moving to pricing and approach. Again, pricing is one of those things that might be a little bit more difficult for you to control, but approach, that's the how that Deborah was talking about. So the vision is almost in the executive summary. The approach is a little bit more of that SOW approach, the how I'm going to do the project and stuff like that. So both of those are really critical. You have total control over. And the other thing with executive summary being first, I don't think we should be surprised there, especially with the AI results that we saw. Most people they're not reading 40-page documents in full anymore. If AI is not doing their summarization, they are probably just looking at that executive summary piece. And that's the 200, 300 words that they're reading across 40 pages. So if you're not doing this today, plug in executive summary either at the top of your document or at the end. Sort of the psychological angle here is that most people will do front and back and look at the beginning and the end of a document, but certainly have that in there because buyers are looking for it. And if you don't have it in there, they're going to kind of jump around and maybe pick or choose to try to come up with their own summary. And ultimately, I think as a writer, you want that to be in your voice. A little feedback from our buyers on these categories. So they like you to be clear on solutions, but they like to see a couple of alternatives. This is an opportunity here. We talked through in the executive summary that they're reading through that, they're reading through the approach. But like, if you want to talk to them about, hey, we decided to go with this approach, but here are some other things that we did consider. Deborah talked you through, like, sit down and like outline those things. If there's a plan B, if there's a plan C, maybe there's one that's a little bit cheaper if they wanted to take a little shortcut here, or they wanted to skinny down the proposal, go ahead and outline that to them. Similarly, like if you did the discovery and the deep thinking on what is the solution this buyer wants and what did I find out from them, and you have an additional point that they could add to the solution that maybe increases the value of this project, but you think that they're going to get ROI on it, walk them through that. It might surprise them, especially if it costs more money. So have that sort of be a plan B, but plan B doesn't mean that you're just skinnying it down. So keep that in mind, that you can add value-added services, and that can shine through if you're clear on, I recommend this part, but here is something that I picked up in discovery that I think you're going to want just based on the project that we talked through. And then of course, the last one, use layman's terms. I'm not the only one reading these. Again, we talked about that with the executive summary piece, that someone else is reading through this. And I hear from customers all the time, hey, could you read the proposal that we just generated and tell me what you think? And sometimes my answer back to them is, I don't know what this is. You didn't put a summary in it, and I don't know your field. Like I don't know the services that you put out. And when you think about a C-level person and they're reading that document, they have to understand that even if they don't have a background in that field. So be as simplistic as you can because you just don't know who's going to be reading these things. So the takeaway from this section, buyers will appreciate choice, but not at the expense of clarity or decision paralysis. The best proposals offer clear, relevant options that make the decision easier while preserving the seller's value and margin. So think through those things very specifically, but have a lot of clarity on what you actually recommend for this client based on the needs that you found back in chapter 2, and use the stuff that you learned in chapter 1 to help you get there with research and all of those type of things that you can do through AI effectively.
Perfect. All right. So this is your 30-second warning that we are moving into the Q&A phase. If there are any questions, go ahead and throw those into the Q&A in the Zoom. But to conclude, the 3 takeaways are as buyers' expectations evolve, so must we. AI usage is expected, not optional. Your buyers don't care that you're using AI. In fact, they expect it and are raising the bar in tandem to expecting you to use AI. They are expecting you to use it, which means they are expecting your timelines to be turned around faster. They are expecting the quality to be higher. They are expecting to receive more proposals. They are expecting more customization, and they are expecting a reallocation of your time to be spent more on thinking through the best possible solution to their challenges and less time on the administrative tasks on things like writing. As I mentioned, customization is the new standard. Templates are not going to cut it. A beautifully designed document is not going to win you the deal. Everything in your solution has to be hyper customized to their needs, and they need to understand and see that you understand them, you understand what they're trying to accomplish, and that your solution is hyper tailored to achieving their goals. And the clearer you are in how you're going to help them achieve those goals, the clearer you are in showing that you have deeply thought through your approach to achieving those goals, and the clearer you are at showing that you have considered multiple ways to achieve those goals and you have actively landed on the approach that you are proposing to your client, the better you are, the better your chances are at winning that deal. And so with that, I don't see any questions in the Q&A. I'll talk slowly just in case any come in here, but I'll end this if no questions come in with a quick plug for Hyphenate. Hyphenate is AI-powered proposal management software purpose-built for consultative services industries. If you sell hyper-customized projects to companies, so companies call you with a problem or an opportunity, and they are expecting you to solve their problem with customized services, and you have to document your approach in a proposal, SOW, change order, Hyphenate was built for you. So if that's of interest, feel free to reach out at hyphenate.ai, and we are happy to show you our product and see if there's a fit.
Great, and no questions coming in. It doesn't look like we have any questions yet, so I think we're good to give people 16 minutes back in their busy Tuesday. So thanks everybody for joining. You will get a copy of this recording. I will make sure that everybody gets a copy of the survey as well if you haven't already received it. That's a PDF that you can take with you, circulate around the office, and use it to help you guide writing proposals in the future. So thanks everybody for spending time with us, and we'll talk to everybody later.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. See ya.